Well, good evening to you. If you're joining us now, my name is Reverend Larry Dokino, or Apostle Larry Dokino, and I'm here with Dr. Drake Williams, three. Um, so I suppose that he's the third generation of the Williams. So,
That's correct.
well, Dr. Williams just brought a very powerful message on pursuing wisdom from the book of Proverbs, and I want to recommend that you go back and listen to that message from our video channel on YouTube. And so we want to just share a few thoughts about this book. And this is the book, the title is Jesus Tried and True. Dr. Williams is the academic dean, I beg your pardon, and a professor of New Testament language and literature at the Tyndale Theological Seminary here in Bad Hoeverdorp near Amsterdam. And we met before, and we had a good time together. And well, today he's here to speak to you on Majesty. We're going to talk a little bit about this book. So welcome, Dr. Williams.
Yep. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. What led you to write this book, Jesus Tried and True?
Yeah, a number of things, Larry. One concern that I'm having as I walk into bookstores, major bookstores, is they seem to be fascinated with other renditions about Jesus than what we have in the New Testament.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go to just a major bookseller, maybe even here in Amsterdam, and go to the Christianity section, and you'll see lots of titles about other Gospels, Gnostic Gospels, Gospel of Thomas, Gospel of Mary, Gospel of Judas, and not saying that these things can't be read, but if we really want to find Jesus, we ought to look at Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, because they're better.
Well, you know, those are the Gospels you're talking about. People tend to get attracted because they think, people have the notion and they believe that there is more, but perhaps the church fathers or those who really canonize the Bible kept certain things from them. They tend to have this attraction to that which is, secret,
Exactly.
And so they when they hear something like that, they tend to believe it. Now, have you had a chance to look at some of those Gospels?
Oh, yes.
And what do you have to say about them in comparison to the four Gospels that we know from the Bible?
They're very different. Generally, they're very, very different. Some of these other Gospels, like the Gospel of Thomas, doesn't have the Passion or the Resurrection in it. It's just these secret sayings that were apparently given to someone years ago that were then written down. Many times these other Gospels give secret knowledge or wisdom that was only revealed to one person, rather than, let's say, like the Gospel of Luke, which is clearly a history of what happened during Jesus' life. That's very, very different.
Well, the thing about, maybe you could let our viewers understand and to see, how, relying on the four Gospels, for example, gives security and assurance to somebody seeking Christ, as opposed to falling on some kind of literature which is standing on its own.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that. The book's based on 3 points. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John have the best date. They're the earliest of any of the other Gospels.
Okay, even earlier than the Gospel of St. Thomas, for example?
Earlier than the Gospel of Thomas, or earlier than the papyri that may be being found lately. No, it's by all means Mark and Matthew in particular, quite early. A second point is that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John purport to give eyewitness testimony. And what is the best thing if you're, let's say, reenacting a scene? You want to have the eyewitnesses tell you what really actually happened. And that is clear within Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, that they're representing eyewitness testimony. And then the third thing, which is perhaps most forgotten, is that what did the generation after Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, what did they trust? They clearly trusted the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John rather than the other ones that were out there. And that's just an early history lesson that clearly supports Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John by far and away over any of the other Gospels.
Well, the book we are talking about is titled Jesus Tried and True by H. Drake Williams III. You should find them in most bookstores. I suppose they're on Amazon.
It's on Amazon.
Amazon.com. You can buy them for about how much? Let me see the price there here. Indication?
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends. Okay. I guess it's about.
It's close to 20 euros.
20 euros. Okay.
It's close to that.
All right. And so you can really read it and digest the information and get acquainted with the story of Jesus. You know, reliably discuss and analyze. And you will love it. You will love it. But I would like to know what really was the motivation for bringing out a book when there's so many books about Jesus, about the church, about about the early church, about the apostles, and
well, a short book. I like short books. Short books that deal with early history.
Yeah.
I think is important. That is accessible to somebody who's an interested layperson. Yeah, there are lots of big books and there are lots of facts, but to put it in a
very
small,
concise, compact,
condensed version, that's what I wanted to do.
So, what is your audience for this book? I mean, who do you? Is it for lay readers or for theological students or professors or researchers or those who are interested in maybe higher learning?
I'd say it's not for the researcher. I would say it's for the Christian worker, a pastor, for somebody who might really have a concern about should I pick up one of these other Gospels? Might they teach me something else? Before you do that, at least investigate Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, because I think they're better. And not only me, that's the church's tradition.
Well, the content, let me just quickly browse through the table of content. We have here chapter 1, the gospel dating, and what are you trying to discuss here?
It's all about the dating of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John compared to all the other Gospels.
Okay. And then in chapter 2, we talk about eyewitness testimony. What are you trying to present over here? What kind of information?
That Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John represent eyewitness testimony from the time, in comparison to all the other Gospels that might have one or two secret stories, but not the wide support from many, many witnesses.
And then chapter 3, gospel reception in the early church history. What were you trying to say here in this chapter?
Yeah, in the 2nd and 3rd century, who did the martyrs trust?
Yeah.
They trusted Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, not the others.
Okay. All right. And then chapter 4, you talk about the other Gospels. What were you referring to here?
Well, I've just simply represented texts from the other Gospels. If you want to read some of them, I think even as you read through them, you'll find that they're very, very different than Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Yeah.
Because the Gospels actually, they pretty much should be able to corroborate each other. Not collaborate, but corroborate each other. It's supposed to be able to support each other.
Oh, yes.
In terms of content. But when one varies, one deviates far off, then that should be suspect.
Yes.
That should be suspect. Okay, so that's what you're saying here. That's why you make mention of those the other Gospels here. Yeah. And so for those of you who have the eye and or rather the ear for the that which is fantastic and that which is way out there, you got to be careful. So you can compare the 4 Gospels with any other Gospel which people try to claim was left behind for us. You got to be careful. So get this book and you can get a good analysis and comparison of the earlier Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and any other Gospel which is out there. And then in the conclusion, what did you try to tell us?
That the early church was right. They received Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and those would be the ones for us to grow deeper in. It's not as if we can't take a look at some of these others just to see how 2nd and 3rd century history was represented, but if we really want our faith in Jesus, find it in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
In the appendix, you mentioned something about the secret Gospel of Mark. What is that?
Well, that's a gospel that many scholars are wondering whether it was fabricated by another scholar and really shouldn't be a part of the discussion.
What do you think was the motive of those who were fabricating and writing other Gospels? Was it to mislead or to deceive? Or what do you think was the motive for trying to put it into circulation, things like that, and to try to propagate it in their own way? What was the motive?
Motives are hard to ascertain. It could be a support of their own viewpoint. Hard to know. Hard to know.
Do you consider that to be the work of the devil to try and cause destruction to people who might be seeking the truth?
I think to sidetrack us from Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, it could be demonic. Yeah.
Okay. So do you recommend these books? No, you say who you recommend this book for once again.
Yeah, I'd say an interested lay person, a pastor.
Yeah.
If someone is really wanting to look at these other gospels, I'd encourage that you at least look at the information in what I've written here in Jesus Tried and True.
Okay. Well, it's a great book, very well printed and bound. You will love it. Get a copy for your library, and you will never regret it. By Dr. H.A. Drake Williams III, Jesus Tried and True. If you're watching this program and you would like to call, give us a call on the studio line 020 3374160, and we would like to. We'll take your call if you want to ask a question. Ask Dr. Williams something about the book or about Tyndale Theological Seminary.
Happy to do that.
You're welcome to give us a call. If you're watching and you would like to interact with us now, do that by calling the studio line 020 3374160. Now, why did you choose to put a crown as a picture here?
That was the publisher, and I appreciate
the publisher did that?
Yeah, that's the crucified Jesus. Many of these other Gospels don't represent the Passion narratives at all. And if you've read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, about half of the Gospel is about Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection. So to leave that out is a notable absence for these other Gospels.
Okay, they do leave it out.
Most of them do.
Really? Okay, then they have an agenda. They have a hidden agenda. And by the way, Paul says that the cross is an offense to the Jews, but also a ridicule, a mockery, a foolishness to the Greeks.
That's true. Yep.
And Paul actually emphasizes the cross because of its power, the power it gives us in the victory over sin and over the power of the devil. And so to leave that out is actually to leave out the source of our victory.
Exactly.
Which is the cross of Jesus.
Exactly.
Anyway, so it's important that you get to know the fact for yourself and know it rightly, that you can share the truth with your loved ones and those who you relate to. Let them know that there is no other gospel apart from the four gospels given to us in the Bible: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And this is a very good treatise on this topic, and I'm sure you will love it. Okay? All right. Any parting words for our viewers this evening before we sign off?
No, don't have any. It's been a pleasure to be a part of your ministry this evening, Larry. I wish you and your wife the best as you carry on here in Amsterdam, South-East.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, viewers, thank you very much for your attention, and we hope to have Dr. Drakes back sometime again soon. God bless you, and keep watching Majesty Christian Television Network. Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye now.